Good morning, guys. This is Miss Medill, and today we're going to be learning about perfect squares and square roots. Okay, so when we're talking about perfect squares, I want you to think of just that, a square. Okay, and the thing that makes a perfect square or a square perfect is that all of its sides are equal. Okay, so keep that in mind. So when we're talking about squares in this particular sense, it says that the square is the product of a number and itself. So the product of 6 and 6 is 36. So here's your example. 6 times 6 is also 6 squared, which is also 36. Okay? So again, 6 times 6 is equal to 6 squared. That's how we say that. And it's equal to 36. The square root is one of two equal factors. Notice that big equal sign, equal word, of a number. So example, the square root of 9 is 3. So here's what it looks like. Square root of 9 equals 3 because 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Now that little symbol is called a radical sign, and that is the symbol that we use to indicate the square root of a number. And then last but not least is a perfect square, and that is a number whose square root is a whole number. So for example, 16 is going to be a perfect square because the square root of 16 is 4. Because 4 is a whole number, okay? So that means that it's not a decimal and it's not a fraction, okay? So let's look into my examples. So I gave you this and I asked, are the shaded portions squares? Why or why not? So let's look at it, okay? So we look at the first square and it has 4 little squares shaded. So 4 is going to be a perfect square because we know that 2 times 2 is 4, okay? 9 is a perfect square because we know that 3 times 3, which is the same whole number, is 9. Oops, sorry, I accidentally deleted that, but I can just go back and it goes back to that. So that is 9. Okay, and then 16, we have 16 squares, and we know that 16 is going to be a perfect square because we know that 4 times 4 should give me 16. Okay? So I've given you a bit of practice with squaring. So we have 1 squared, and I want you to know that when you're saying that a number is squared, you're multiplying that number times itself. So when we say 1 squared, we're really saying 1 times 1. And 1 times 1 is going to be 1. Just as, for example, 2 squared. 2 squared means 2 times 2, which equals 4. Now I am going to leave the rest of the practice up to you to complete, okay? And it's also good to start thinking, part of your learning is that you're going to have to memorize the perfect squares of 1 through 15, okay? So go ahead and pause the video at this time and complete that. All right, moving on to square roots. Okay, I kind of gave you like a little joke. And it's saying, what is the square root of 16? Well, it is the square of 2. Okay, and if you didn't get that little joke, square roots are actually the opposite or the inverse of squares. Okay, so that's actually going to be our first answer right there. And it says square roots are the opposite. Or you can write inverse. And if you need to make this a little bit bigger, you can. Okay, they are going to be the opposite of perfect squares. A square root of a number is going to be one of its 2 equal factors. Remember, we talked about that earlier in your vocabulary. So 4 times 4 is 16. So that 4 is going to be the square root of 16. And again, you can adjust the text boxes to fit your needs, okay? Now the symbol, if you don't know how to put that symbol, if you go to Insert and you go to Special Characters, if it doesn't pop up automatically here, you can actually type it in. And it is a square root symbol. All you have to do is click Once you click, it is automatically placed in there. And of course, we touched up on that earlier. That symbol is actually called a radical sign. And like I said, you can adjust this. This is your notebook, okay? Your digital notebook. I'm gonna adjust the size so it fits in one piece, okay? And a radical sign is used to show the numbers square. So here are some examples that we're gonna work together. The square root of 4, okay? When you're talking about taking the square root of something, I want you to think, okay, what number times itself gives me 4? So the answer to that would be 2, because 2 times 2, give me just a second. Come on. Because, sorry, 2 times 2, that took longer than I needed to. 2 times 2 equals 4. So let's look at the square root of 9. What times itself gives me 9? Well, if you said 3, you are absolutely correct. Because if I know that 3 times 3 is going to give me, in fact, 9. And then, of course, the square root of 16, that's going to be 4. Because obviously, we know that 4 times 4 gives me 16. Okay? And I am going to leave the rest of these to you. I've also embedded some more practice here. And I even gave you guys like a quick little image to remind you that you can square a number, which is this up here, putting that exponent of 2, and they are each other's opposite. They're inverses, and you can also take the square root. So if I take the square root of 9, I get 3. If I square 3, I get 9. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and if you have any questions at all, please let me know, and I am more than happy to help. I will see you guys later. Bye.